everybody. My name is Dick Vaughan, and it's time for another Conversations With. And boy, am I glad to see you. My good friend Richard Morchoe is with me.
I'm glad Dick is back
Yeah.
because the country has gone to hell without you.
Well, I noticed that.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Everything has gone wrong.
Well, I don't know. I think one of the problems we're now facing, and it's a human problem, is we gave out too much money, and they don't want to go back to work because they're making more money staying home than they are working. They get 75% of their pay, plus they get $300 more. And in most cases, that gives them more money than they were making.
Well, what the heck? Why not write the checks? I mean, if it was good then, why isn't it good now?
I'm not saying it's wrong.
You're not?
No, I'm just saying people aren't going back to work.
So we have Dick Vaughan here, who is now the Everett Dirksen of child. Remember what Everett Dirksen was famous for saying?
Oh, I knew
$1 billion here, $1 billion there, and soon it adds up to real money.
Yeah.
And now we're in trillions.
Yeah.
And we want people to go to work, back to work. People don't want to go to
I
back.
think the one thing that we've now, I hope people understand, is that on all levels of government, the federal, national, state, regional, and town, we are a corrupt group of government people. That corruption exists. And I think that's a tragedy. You and I have talked about this.
Well, I certainly don't think corruption is a positive thing.
No.
I think it's a tragedy too.
I know. And I mean, when we have sergeants and lieutenants and captains who have gold stripes, who all started out as a trooper or a police officer on the street in Boston, protecting some of their brother officers by burying an investigation. It's a fake. They don't really ever have them. And if they did, nobody will testify against the other officer. So there's that, what they call it, the blue wall. Mm-hmm. And you got situations where we have bad guys toting guns with a badge.
Dick is alluding it's been a while, but Dick is alluding to the ongoing scandals with our state troopers, who
now Boston police.
And possibly the state troopers were kind of known for overtime that at least wasn't physically overtime. Might have been, who knows? Yeah. Maybe they spiritually had overtime.
Yeah, whatever.
But physically, they were not there
didn't go.
when they said they were, and they made fortunes on our dime.
Yeah.
Now, Dick
and here's the thing that really still troubles me, and I've sent it to Channel 5. That's only 1 year. That was 2017.
That's the only year it really happened.
No, it isn't.
I know that, and you know that, but does Channel 5 or 7 know?
Well, that's the only thing they get. They only can get so many records.
So we have to give. So we can give this Lieutenant so and so the benefit of the doubt. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Dick has posited Vaughan's law that there's always going to be a government. Nobody knows how to run a government, and the ongoing scandals we have prove that.
Oh, yeah.
But up in Long Hill Road, we have the iron law of government is everything reduces to its absurd. So, when Dick and I remember when the state troopers were a great...
You looked up to them.
Yeah, they were a good organization.
Whoa! They were the creme de la creme.
But eventually it was going to go a cropper. Yeah. And how do we get it back to do we fire every trooper and set up a new set of troopers? How do we get back to the good cop?
Well, we just have to start up in New Braintree where they trained, and hopefully get some good guys training them that make some sense to them. I watch these things on television. I watched a guy the other day, a cop kicking a guy who was down. And I said to myself, at what point, officer, at what point will you realize everybody's got a camera? At what point will you realize you can't kick a guy if he's on the street and you got him in handcuffs?
Well, that's sort of like the Chauvin thing.
Yeah.
You know, Chauvin, actually, I'm not defending Chauvin anyway. He was doing something they were trained to do. They're trained to do that on the, but there's so many videos out there of far worse than Chauvin.
Yeah.
Of shooting people just out of hand.
Yeah.
But then you get that woman who was about to stab another woman, and the cop did shoot her, and that's controversial. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
But did he save the other woman's life?
Of course.
But
Yes.
I hope so. I hope so. Because if you're going to have the thing where they're shooting innocent people, one guy who does a good job is probably not going to get
Well,
recognized.
one of the things, and
It's not one guy, I should say.
I don't really want to get into it because it is so controversial. All we hear about is guns, 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 guns. We have way too many guns in the hands of people who shouldn't have them. And why we can't get a simple, if you want a gun, go buy it. You have to have a check done, and you can't get your gun for 24 hours. There's a 24-hour waiting period while the chief of police goes over your record, or whoever, even if they have a gun czar, an office that they open to just handle those requests for a gun. Because in today's economy and in today's marketplace with what we do have in technology, they can run a check on you in 30 seconds.
Sure. And in fact, the NSA is checking you right now, even though they're not supposed to legally.
Yeah, oh, I know.
Well,
But I mean, but yet to try to get some of our senators and House members to even touch a gun law, and I'm not saying take away their guns. I'm just saying, if you want a gun, you have to go look at it, apply for it, wait 24 hours for the word to come back, and if it's approved, you go get your gun. That's all I'm saying. I can't see why that's bad. No more than I can see why people don't have an ID with a picture to vote. That's not bad.
I agree. The thing about the gun is, it's got to be transparent and everything, because they'll use that. In Massachusetts, they'd love to have a law that, like, nobody gets a gun. There are people in Massachusetts. So, what was the other point you were making? My mind is going with.
No, that they file a form, and the police chief takes a look at it and approves it.
And I agree with that if it's honestly and fairly enforced. But you know what it says in the Second Amendment? Do you know? This
Well,
is
it's
unfair.
been misquoted so many times. It says we have the right to bear arms to defend ourselves.
No, it doesn't.
No.
It says and I'm not going to get this completely right. It says a well-regulated militia being essential to a republic. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, that means is Dick and Richard going to go down and join the militia? The regulated militia, not some the Oath Keepers or something. Are they going down to join the militia and serve in the militia?
Yeah.
Well, probably. You giving up your weekend, Dick, to drill on the town common? So, there's a lot of questions around that. And mostly, the Supreme Court has said, come down on, no, you have a right no matter what. Now, I believe it was once that every male is considered constitutionally part of the militia, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still, That's still
They
holding.
can put a draft in place and you go.
Well, I believe everybody in the country should go because what we have now, remember the draft was, I remember when I was subject to the draft. I wasn't drafted, I enlisted. But I remember it was big when I was young.
Yeah.
And it didn't catch everybody, but it caught some people. It was very unfair the way it was done. And then they got rid, they said, oh, we'll have peace and freedom. We have war since we got rid of the draft because we have a mercenary army.
Yeah.
They may be patriots, but it's still there. If you said to somebody, hey, we're not paying you to be in the army, they wouldn't be there.
Well, sure.
You're not going to be in pay.
Well, but they give them a deal. They get college education. They get all kind of bennies.
They get a lot of bennies.
Well, in fact, you speak of the military. If you talk about the Marines, who are the few, the proud, etc., those are the ones that end up being the tough cops.
They do.
You go back and check their Channel 5 checks them all out. They were all in the Marines.
Yeah. And since we got rid of the draft, well, in this century, we have had only war. We can't even get out of Afghanistan. Biden, who said he was going to get out?
Well, he is. I think
he's leaving.
He's 650.
He's 50, but he's also leading contractors. So we have another mercenary army. We're not leaving I hope. We'll know when we've left Afghanistan. You know how we'll know?
Taliban will take over.
Taliban will take over. And I have to tell the Taliban, if you take over Kabul, you can't name it Ho Chi Minh City.
No.
Like the Vietnamese did when they took over Saigon. You have to come up with an Arabic or a Pashtun name. You can't take Ho Chi Minh City. It's taken already.
Yeah.
But we'll know when we left because nobody really wants us.
Well, we're getting out of Iraq slowly.
We might cross the border over into whatever we've stolen from Syria. But probably we're not complete. I hope we do. I want us to bring it.
I agree.
But the government, Blinken and all these other people, you know what the difference between Blinken and Pompeo is? The only difference?
The last name.
100 pounds. You haven't heard that one, have you?
No.
I like that one. So you voted for Biden.
Yeah.
And what's good about having Biden there?
Well, what I think has been good is everybody got a second round of money.
Whoa! You were getting it anyway.
Well,
Trump for Biden, you were getting it anyway.
And he's going to do the infrastructure, which we desperately need.
Trump wouldn't have done that in another administration.
Trump
Don't give him a pass on.
Hold it. Trump promised to do it on day one, and never did it. All he cared about was his wall.
Okay, so you think what Biden is doing on the southern border is good?
I don't have an answer for the southern border, to be real candid. I don't know what I want down there. But I know that no matter what you do, there are going to be those people who will find a way in here. Period.
There are people, but will they do it en masse?
No.
Okay, so the whole idea, somebody's got to break some law somewhere.
Yeah.
So Biden isn't doing anything. He's watching that. So I want to know what the real qualitative difference is.
Who knows? I just think it's nice to wake up in the morning and not have to watch TV and say, okay, what did he say last night? What did he do last night? Who did he pick on yesterday? And he dominated, he meaning Trump. His one goal daily was to be the lead story on all the newscasts. And he was.
And I didn't vote for him.
And I give him credit for him.
I do not think that I think Biden, first of all, Biden is not the president. Maybe, what was Woodrow Wilson's wife's first name? Was it Edith? I think maybe Jen, what's her name?
Jill.
Jill has a Edith Wilson complex, and maybe she's guiding, but I doubt it because she doesn't seem to be the sharpest tack on the wall. But Biden is not really the president.
She's a doctor.
Would you?
Richard,
You know, that's why you're lucky you had the Mass General people.
Sharpest tack in the world.
Go ahead. Okay. So I mean,
Oh, by the way, speaking of that, I'll do a show on that for you someday. You want to go to a place that's got it figured out and has the best in the world that people, and I didn't even realize, they have suites at Mass General where people come from all over the world and pay thousands of dollars just to tap into their professional physicians who all have specialties.
Of course.
I mean, by the time I left there, I had 7 different doctors with 7 different specialties and 9 surgeons.
And Joe Biden wasn't one of them.
No, I didn't ask Joe. No, I let Joe go. I'm not, don't get me wrong. I'm not thrilled with Joe. I think Joe's got, I like to think, okay? Like to think. And when I think it sometimes gets dangerous. But I like to think that somebody who spent 40 years in the House of Representatives and the United States Senate and 8 years as the Vice President of the United States becomes president and knows a little bit about Washington and is a good healer and a good negotiator. And hopefully, before it's all done, Joe will get some of these things done.
Do you think he has his senses?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
Some of the things he says when he fades out and they won't let him answer a question from somebody. All the questions are vetted first. Do you think, really? Now the other thing about this man is his family is a corrupt operation, and just if his son got a job with Burisma, that was corrupt. We know that was corrupt.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, that isn't the first thing. That isn't the only thing he's done. I mean, he's probably done.
No, I got it.
How can you say there's anything good there?
I got it, Richard, because it goes back to being corrupt. We have a corrupt government. And when you're a United States Senator or you're the Vice President, I mean, we have now he's the minority leader of the Senate, O'Connell, with his wife, who was Secretary of Transportation.
I agree.
Making $200,000 a year.
I agree.
And she's in trouble.
I agree.
She's running a Chinese company that's anti-American.
I agree. Which is why we did a show.
That's right.
On why the whole thing has to completely change.
That's right.
Boy, I love that we have this table now because we can express ourselves.
Yeah, you can bang the table.
We can be theatrical.
Bang the table. No, but you're right. And I have to be real candid. I get very frustrated when I see what's going on. And that includes Biden and Kamala Harris. I get frustrated. There's a big story that broke this morning that she brought in somebody as chief of staff who has alienated her whole staff that came with her from the Senate. So her whole office is in disarray. She's got a boss who protects her. Nobody can talk to Kamala, so you talk to me. And so ideas that are brought up are just sitting on her desk and going nowhere. Harris hasn't even heard about them. And for instance, there was people on the staff who had been urging for weeks that she go down to Mexico, go down to the border. And finally she went. And she didn't get the press she wanted because she waited too long and went too little too late.
Yeah.
But that's the staff. Her staff now.
But doesn't she
Now-
have any agency? I mean, here
Well,
doesn't she have any-
listen, if it were me and I heard that story, I'd have been in there in about 30 seconds, low morale, rah, rah, rah. I'd have had a staff meeting so fast. What do we do about it? Want me to get rid of her? She's gone. I'd get rid of that chief of staff so fast, she wouldn't know what hit her. Because obviously, after 4 months, she hasn't worked out well.
Well, it's obvious. This woman was not, you waxed poetic when she was nominated.
Only
There
because,
is not, no there.
let me tell you, 1984, I was very involved in the government of Massachusetts. I was an advisor to Governor Dukakis. That particular year was an election year, and the first woman ever to be on the ballot was Geraldine Ferrara. Walter Mondale was running for president, and he put her on the ticket. I was ecstatic because I had done studies with my psychiatrist friend that tell me that women outperform men. And I've proven it 50 times over. I hired the first girl to do a talk show in 1973. All my brothers in broadcasting called me nuts. Nuts. My rating went through the roof with her. Curiosity. Oh, there's a lady on the radio.
That was a good move.
Oh, that was so successful. I hired Samantha in the morning. She blew everybody away. Then I hired 3 of the cutest little girls who had just graduated from college, brought them into the building. They spent 2.5 weeks with me without even going out making a call, and I taught them sales. Dick Vaughan Radio 101. By the time they hit the street, they used to call them Dickie's Angels. They were vicious. And that's not true. They weren't vicious. What they were was back in those days, all these companies were run by men. All the general managers were men. Women never got up that high. Now, how many men do you know can look at a cute little 22-year-old and say no? Not many. And so they wrote a ton of business for me.
I'm sure.
One of them went on to be a general manager of one of those Springfield stations, WMAS. It was Murray. Her name was Murray. She was great. But my point is, women outperform men. But anyway, so Geraldine Ferrara was coming to the University of Massachusetts for a rally. I get a call from the governor. I want you to go up there and represent. I want you up there. You belong on the stage. You'll go up there and you're going to see this person, Secret Service. He'll give you credentials. You're all set. So I get up there. Now, not only did they do that, but they had names on the chairs of the people where they wanted them to sit. I went in and I'm looking for mine. Someone said, "Oh, hey, Dick, you're over here." Right behind the rostrum. The next seat to me was Mr. Ferraro, only his name wasn't Ferraro, it was some other Italian name. Forget it now. But I went and sat there. So everybody on television, there's Dick Vaughan sitting behind Geraldine Ferraro. And so I got to know her, and her son was going to Middlebury College. And in the conversation, she's chatting and says, "Yeah, I got to get up there, blah, 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 blah." So I didn't think any more of it. And then I left there. We bought a station in Vermont. And a friend of mine that owned the Cortina Inn called me up. She lost, of course, that ticket lost. So this is 4 years later.
That's one time she didn't outperform the man.
No, she didn't. And she didn't help the ticket any. Not that Mondale, I don't think anybody could help Mondale.
No, that's true.
And he ran against Reagan, and Reagan was just, I voted for Reagan. It was just, how do you not support that guy? He was so smooth. But anyway, I said, oh, really? So just because I could, I picked up the phone and I called up to the hotel when she checked in. She took the call. She remembered. And she came down and did the talk show for us because she was in town for a few days to see her visit her son. And so she was more than happy to come down. She said, oh, I'd love to do it, have some fun. So she did. But that's my story about Geraldine Ferraro. So I've always wanted a woman to become president of the United States, only because the men have done it for 267 years. How's that worked out?
Well, you can point to different presidents,
Oh,
and some are better than others.
oh yeah.
And you can point to women general managers, and some are better than others.
Oh yeah.
Kamala ain't.
Well, I think that the problem with Kamala is he wanted to balance the ticket. That's California. And so he took her. Was there other women I think he could have taken? Yes.
There was one woman who was saying sensible things, who who would make a great president, I believe. And that's Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
There's the only one saying anything sensible
Well, I know.
in that Democratic ticket.
You really believe in her. And she couldn't get off the ground.
Okay, wait a minute. She ended Kamala's presidential campaign in the debate. She slapped her around. And then they wouldn't let her be in the debates. You remember that? That's why. Because the Democratic Party, the war party, one of the two war parties, didn't want her in. Because the big money behind the Democratic Party, the military.
Richard, there's no argument.
But you said, how did that work out? As if
No,
she was.
there's no argument that when the party doesn't want you, they get rid of you.
That's right.
There's no question.
The
I mean, look.
corrupt party.
See,
They
my
were the two
politics.
corrupt parties.
My politics has always been the back room. I'm in the boiler room. I make the tough decisions. I plan the strategy. I do the marketing for campaigns. That's what I did.
Yeah, I know you did.
And,
You did
and
well.
I weren't out front, you know. I wasn't waving Charlie, you know, and I wasn't giving them $1,000 an hour, you know. So I was in there because they needed me and wanted me. But I was always in the back room where the fights were. I was arguing, fight like heck, you know. And would I have picked Kamala Harris? No. You know, Gabbard, I don't know. You know, I can't tell you because I don't know enough about her. But certainly not Kamala. She had 3 years' experience in the Senate. That's her. She was an attorney general, and she was a prosecutor. You know, one of my big arguments with all the legislatures, including the Senate and the House of the United States, the Senate and the House of Massachusetts, has way too many lawyers. Get rid of the lawyers.
Well, how do you do that?
You
I mean,
can't.
that's
They got the money.
That's the
They got the
situation.
time to do it.
That's right. And when they can't make a living from law,
Why
they
not?
make a living by making laws.
That's right.
There you go.
And then they keep their little law practice on the side.
Oh, yeah, well, they get
Because
more
they-
candidates. They get more clients because of that.
Well, they get more clients because the client needs help.
The client.
Get my license back.
Yeah.
I got a DUI. Can you beat it in court? You're a senator. Can you get me this? Can you get me a job? Can you get me? They call it constituent services. It's not constituent services.
Arose by any other name.
I got to tell you a funny story. Dukakis was governor for 2 days. First time, he won. Beat Frank Sargent. I'm sitting there, and there was an office that Frank Sargent had. And it was an office called, well, what it really was patronage. and it was called the patronage office. Okay, but they called it, I forget what they had a name for it. Performance office of performance, but it was patronage.
Yeah.
And they had a patronage director. And the first thing he would do if you called, he would look up to see how much you gave him. He had that in his computer. And depending on how much you gave him, that's how hard he worked for you.
Yeah. I'm no surprise.
I've told you the story. I've told you the story about one of John Kerry's guys called me up looking for a low number when I was at the RMV. And I says, how well does the senator like him? He says, what do you mean? Just wants a plate. How well does the senator like him? He says, what do you mean? I said, do you really like him? That means a letter and 2, or maybe even a 3 or a 4. But if he's just another guy, I'll give him a letter and 3. And the kid still didn't get it. You know what I was talking about.
How can you live in Massachusetts?
And no understanding.
How can you live in Massachusetts?
You know, but anyway, the first thing Dukakis calls me up. We go to the meeting. He said, I'm going to get rid of the patronage office. He said, okay. He says, I don't want that thing. I want to get right out of the government. It was in the governor's office. Used to sit right in the office with the governor. Out of there. We hired Nick Mastrangelo, and Nick had an office down on the second or third floor. And what did we call? Well, I came up with some kind of a cuckoo name.
Office of Peace and Love.
No, I forget what it was. Office. It wasn't. We certainly didn't use patronage. I forget what office of perfect employment. I don't know what it was. Some crazy name.
Performance.
Performance. That was what it was. Office of Performance, whatever it was. And we had that. And that stuff kind of funneled down to Nick. And to give the governor credit, he never got involved. I mean, I give him credit. He would, you could call him all day.
When he had...
And he would say, apply to Nick.
When he had people like Dick Vaughan working for him, knowing where to go, where to...
Well, what his first, why Ed King beat him was because he didn't have a no man. He would say no, and the governor can never say no to somebody. So I became the no man. Anyway, Richard, it's been great.
It's been great.
It's great chatting once again.
It's so wonderful to see you back.
Well, I'm thrilled.
And I see I've raised your adrenaline.
Right, I'm alive.
There you go.
I'm alive. Thanks a lot, folks.
Thank you.
That's another Conversations With.